Now, ironically, that took me in a whole different direction because I started this whole thing because of my passion for cultivation, you know, and I realized that my passion was actually broader. It is for cultivation, and at first I thought it was for energy cultivation and you know, the kind of like meditative cultivation, but then I realized actually no, it's for cultivation itself. I just love just the whole concept of cultivation, of a person being able to really cultivate their life and towards purpose. And I realized like, wow, my real passion is towards purpose. And I thought that when I'd come across these spiritual tools, that was it. Like, wow, this is like the path to purpose. And then I was tool focused instead of being need focused. But then as I'm trying to teach my students, I'm realizing that the tools don't matter. Actually, the tools only matter insofar as how effective they are for the needs. And so I started problem solving with my students to actually how to take care of that particular part of their need. In the very beginning, you know, all the solutions were in terms of the tools that I learned, the spiritual tools that I learned, you know, such as how to breathe, how to meditate, and things like that. But, you know, I love that stuff, how to meditate, or it was just how to journal. But that stuff doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And so I started looking at this whole thing more broadly. And I feel like that actually made me more of a Taoist, if anything, because that's what a Taoist does. It just looks at nature and just looks at what's effective and just studies it, what's more natural to the person. And so all of a sudden my world opened up, realizing, I just need to start looking at needs. And the tools that I had learned started allowing me to understand this deeper. And then I started realizing, okay, so when someone comes, I can start teaching these cultivation methods, but really when they're getting stuck, I need to actually look at the broader context of their life, of what's going on, and then what their need is. And then once we identify their needs, actually the solutions came very readily. The person started finding their own path, started finding self-direction. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. Because we don't have an education that's based upon recognizing what one's needs are, we're really bad at it. We're really bad at being able to tell what our needs are and what our wants are. We're really good at the shoulds. So we have learned how to just really go after the shoulds. But you know, you're never gonna go and find the life that you want through your shoulds, because should is someone else, what someone else told you that you need to do in order for you to succeed. They have nothing to do with your own needs. They have nothing to do with your own being. They have everything to do with someone else's expectations. And so the people who succeeded, they were really good at meeting other people's expectations and their own expectations. The people who were disciplined, they would succeed. But it was really interesting, they were still dissatisfied. And I saw this over and over again. So when I first started teaching, you know, I really kind of liked the obligers and then the upholders. And the reason was because the obligers, you know, they would, you know, out of their love for me, would do what I want them to do. And then I'm thinking I'm a great teacher. But it's really actually that they're an obliger. And they're able to meet other people's expectations. But what I found out is that sometimes these people would end up being actually unhappy because they were following something they didn't want to follow, but they were following it simply because it was an expectation. And I was like, wow, we're doing this to be happy. And you're unhappy. Why did you do it? You know, it's like spirituality 101, you know, like you're doing this so that you can be happier, so you can have more meaning. You're more miserable. It's like spirituality went out the window somewhere. And so, you know, it's you know, I think it's really humorous. And the upholders, the same things. They would meet their expectations. Okay, this is what you need to do because you need to train. They would get great gains. You know, they would be high performers, if you will. And they would meet my expectations. They would meet their own expectations of how much they should train. And initially, they're superstars. But some place along the way, there's this deep discontentment that brews on the inside because they're still not following the ones. The only people that actually get happy, ironically, are not the people who could get themselves to do something. They're the people who could get themselves to do things that they wanted to do. If that's the case, then why not switch the equation and have them follow what they want, which is actually the natural drive for a person to do something anyways. And that's when things started switching around. And that's when I started realizing, oh, a person really fundamentally can only be satisfied through their wants, which is actually the path of their purpose. And once they find how to do that, they become self-directed. And once they become self-directed, then they start having infinite drive. The drive itself comes from their need, no different from feeling hungry and then going to look for food. There's no drive like your genuine needs. And needs, I feel like, have become a bad thing because oftentimes we experience negativity in relation to our needs because oftentimes we let ourselves starve so long that the only experience that we have is of hunger for all of our needs, whether it's for service, whether it's for purpose, whether it's for success and like working really hard to see how far you can succeed and compete, or whether it is for relationships and intimacy and belonging, whether it's for like routines and getting your rules and your resources in order, or whether it's for your health and functionality. All of these things, they are actually genuinely our needs. But it's kind of interesting. The same needs, if put upon ourselves and forced on us, we lose desire for them. Like say, for instance, if we have to go to church, it's terrible. There's no real love. There's no genuine desire. If you have to give service, oftentimes we do feel better afterwards. But, it kind of becomes a chore. And oftentimes I've seen so many spiritual people as they're giving where they just look completely emptied out. Not in a good way. Where they feel like they just feel the sacrifice. And I've seen people experience grace, from that kind of sacrifice. But most of the time, what I see is these same people providing guilt for other people to sacrifice in the same way. You can see that they're feeling miserable. And so there's no happiness. But I've seen people who want to serve, who are serving from the joy. And you know what? Everyone wants to be around them. And it doesn't even look like work or sacrifice. There's just no sacrifice. They're just jumping around, being happy, and they don't even need to do anything. Just having that person around is a joy. And you can really see the difference between those people. And so these needs, if it's a wrong need that's coming to you, then you won't be motivated to take any action. The only time actually we'll be inspired to take action is if that's our need in that moment. And that's really what I want to actually really kind of emphasize. It has to be your need in that moment. And if it's not your need in that moment, then there's no point, because it's someone else's needs. And there's no drive. There's no drive. And I feel like that's actually one of the reasons why we have such a loss of efficiency and effectiveness in the workforce, because it's not really coming from within. It's a should. It's someone else's expectations. And the best nowadays we've got is to become a high performer. And hopefully, because you're a high performer, you can get expectations. And there's no joy